Good evening and welcome to the 2023-24 Transition Webinar Series hosted by the Nassau-Boces Department of Special Education. We thank the Nassau-Boces Board of Education for supporting this initiative. My name is Janine Stutz and I'm the principal at the Center for Community Adjustment. Thank you for joining us. The purpose of these webinars is to provide information that is important for families when students are preparing to leave school and enter adulthood. This webinar will run about 1 hour. If you have a question during the presentation, we invite you to type your question into the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be addressed following the presentation or during as time allows. If your question is of a personal nature, feel free to leave your contact information and tonight's presenter will contact you individually. Tonight's webinar is on the topic, supporting your child's mental health needs after high school. At the request of our speakers, this event will be recorded and it will be posted on the Nassau-Boces website, in addition to the PowerPoint presentation. Our speaker tonight, Caryl Svendsen-Deiches, family peer advocate and family engagement specialist of the Family and Children's Association. Tonight, our speaker will review the benefits and limitations on parental involvement in a child's mental health treatment after turning 18 years of age. She will provide general information about guardianship and the application process when adult children refuse parental involvement but still need the support of a parent. And it is with pleasure that I introduce you to Ms. Svendsen-Deiches.
Thank you very much, Janine. Hi, good evening, everybody. I wanted to just quickly, again, reintroduce myself. I'm a family peer advocate, and a lot of times people don't know what that actually means. What that means is I'm an adult that has lived experience, meaning that my children have had mental health and wellness challenges throughout their journey, and I now get to work with other families to share my lived experience with them. Next slide. One of the things that I do is I work with Family and Children's Association as a family engagement specialist. And I'll talk a little bit briefly about some of the services that we provide for all of our Nassau and Suffolk County families that you all could take advantage of as well. So I wanted to go to the next slide really quickly. At Family and Children's Association, we support the whole family. So we actually have programs for seniors, for adult case management. We have a substance abuse program. We run residentials and actually homeless shelters as well. But today I'm going to focus on mental health and wellness, children's mental health and wellness. So some of the programs that we offer at Family and Children's Association include our Family Center Nassau program. And this is a wonderful program that's open to families with children ages 5 to 18 that have private insurance that are at risk for mental health. So you don't have to have a major mental health diagnosis, but you need to be at risk for a challenge. A lot of the families in this program, for example, may have ADHD or anxiety. And what happens when you join our Nassau Center Family Center program is we provide family peer support with an advocate like myself that comes into the home and works with the parents to understand the challenges that their children may have. And we kind of review and make sure that the best practices are happening at home. We also can provide community links to respite services free of charge. Another program that we offer at Family and Children's Association is our home-based community services. We call them HCBS. And our HCBS services are also delivered in your home for children ages 5 to 21 who are Medicaid eligible. And these are a little bit more intensive services, and they do require a mental health diagnosis. But the services we include here are pre-vocational training, respite, caregiver support. Sometimes we have a case manager. And to qualify, the child needs to be enrolled in our home healthcare management program. To get into this particular program, you would go through Nassau County single point of access. And I'll explain some of that later in the presentation. And you could always ask questions later about any of these services. Another service we provide is our community, family, and treatment support services. I like to look at this as like an a la carte program. You know, when you go out to dinner, you could pick a little of this and pick a little of that. It really is gauged towards what the family needs. It's not so much a structured program. So it could include behavioral health services, a therapy, in home therapy, counseling, family peer support, skill building. And this again is also open to our children that are Medicaid eligible from ages 12 to 21. Next slide. Case management is also something that we offer at Family and Children's Association, which is with a licensed mental health provider. Again, for case management, either private or Medicaid insurance is required. And for case management, the ages are fairly similar, 5 to 21, but you need to have at least one or two serious emotional disturbance diagnoses, complex trauma, or chronic situations. For example, you could be a child diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and have an IEP and have educational challenges in your school. That would qualify for case management. And all of our services, we come to you into your home. So it's not like you're required to come to us. We come to you wherever you want us to come. The Wi-Fi program is primarily Suffolk County, and that's only in Suffolk County. It serves 5 to 21, and similar to Nassau Family Center program, it is a program for our families that have private insurers who are at risk for a mental health diagnosis. You don't have to have a serious mental health diagnosis for this. It's a little different. I actually work on the Wi-Fi program, and we have a little bit of a team that comes out. So we have a case manager comes to the home. You get a family peer advocate, myself, an adult that works with parents to help them navigate the challenges of parenting a child with mental health. And there's usually a youth peer advocate, a young individual, 21 and up, that works directly with the child who is a little bit more closer in age and can be more of a youth peer. Next slide. So what I really want to talk about is how do we maintain and foster our children's mental health as they're transitioning from the high school environment into the world, whether it may be on to secondary education, trade education, right into the workforce, day have, whatever that journey may be. How do we keep our children healthy and regulated and successful? And I think the biggest thing you're going to see here and me talk about, it's going to be a theme that you're going to hear throughout, is that we, the parents, have to change our mindset and our shift in how we parent our children. You know, we're actually going from parents that are providing support, structure, and actually dictating rules and regulations to parents that are stepping back and empowering our children to make those decisions on their own. Next slide. So I just talked about how the parent role really changes, right? And there's a lot of things, and these are just little bullet points, but privacy is a big one. You know, as our children's transition into that, like, you know, they're turning 18, right? Um, Sometimes we lose certain rights in regards to their privacy. They may or may not share decisions on medical decisions, and they don't have to. You know, we may not be able to get medical information anymore unless our children have deemed it appropriate for us to do so. Same thing with financial decisions. Our children are able to open up bank accounts and get charge cards. They may want to have independent living arrangements. They may have their own insurance and they have their own legal responsibilities. But the thing I think that's important to recognize here is we are still legally responsible for their actions until they're 21 in the state of New York. So they may think they're adults, but we're still responsible for their actions. So if you feel that your child may need assistance in any one of these areas, now's the time before they turn 18 to have these conversations about where they may need assistance and what you can do as a parent to support them and guide them in their decision-making process. Next slide. You know, I couldn't wait for my kids to graduate. I was so excited. They were excited. I'm sure if you're parents of a child that's graduating this year, you're ecstatic. I was a BOCES parent myself. My son graduated from Islip Career Center and Manor Plains High School. My daughter was over at Wilson Tech, and they could not wait to be 18. They're like, we're out of here. It's our life. We're adults now. We can make decisions, right? And what do we say to our kids when they're about to graduate? It's all on you now. It's on your shoulders. It's your life. Make the most of it. So we're actually putting a lot of pressure on our kids without really realizing it. And there's something out there in the world called graduation grief, right? Because while graduation brings joy and independence and, you know, being able to do what you want in certain respects, it also brings a lot of uncertainty and change. It's the end of routines and structures. When we're in the high school, in the school environment, it's very nurturing. You have teachers that you know, friends and peers, and activities that you're used to doing, and expectations and support. That all disappears when you leave high school. And it can be very, very challenging for certain individuals. That's where we start to see depression and anxiety in a lot of our kids as they're transitioning from high school into their next step as adults. It's hard sometimes to struggle and see and celebrate these things when you may not be feeling that inside. I'll never forget. I would say this all the time to my kids. Well, you're 18 now. It's all on you. It's your decision. And I remember my daughter one time coming back and saying, it really made me feel like I had to do it on my own and you weren't going to be there for me. Right. So I think we have to recognize as our children transition that even though it may be an exciting, fun time, there may be some fear and anxiety attached to that as well. Next slide. So you may see these feelings in your kids coming out now, right? So what do we see? Everybody's different, right? Everybody handles stress different. Everybody handles anxiety and transitions different. So some kids get sort of like paralyzed. They get overwhelmed with the responsibilities. They're not sure what options to take, what the right choice is. They don't want to make a mistake and they don't want to fail, right? They don't want to fail themselves or fail their parents. Another form that you may see some of our kids take right now when they're transitioning and they're worried about their world is sort of like a denial. They're denying that this is even happening. And they're like, I don't need your help. I got this all figured out, even when they don't, right? I'm an adult. You can leave me alone. I got this on. I got this, mom. I got this, dad. Don't need it. Right. I'm 18 now and you can't ask me or can't help me with anything, right? So we see that happening as well. And that's a denial of utilizing their parents for support. And the next thing you may see, and hopefully not your kids, but I've had that happen to me, is the self-sabotagers, right? They stop showing up for exams. They stop doing the commitments. They're like, school's over. What do I need to try anymore? I'm a senior. I don't need to do this anymore. They may start missing deadlines or maybe even college applications because they're fearful, right? They may be retreating from information sessions, opportunities, and support services that they used to go to, thinking, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm out of here. I'm done. Right. So we see that self sabotaging behavior as well. And that's why sometimes, they name it differently. Sometimes you may hear people call it, the senior slack off or whatever it may be. But we see that a lot of times when our kids are getting ready to transition out of high school. Next slide. So I guess the really important thing about why you're probably all here is like, well, what should we do? Right? What do parents do? What should we do to maintain our kids' mental health and make sure that they're transitioning properly? Next slide. Well, I think the most important shift for a parent or a family that is supporting a child that's transitioning is to give them interdependence versus independence, right? Independence is like it's all on you, it's on your shoulders, you go figure it out, good luck, goodbye, right? But interdependence is really that wonderful balancing uh, part of guiding them with support and giving them opportunities to have autonomy while keeping them safe. Everybody wants to feel safe and supported, right? So this is our opportunity now to start to back off and give them more opportunities. If you're a parent that's still waking your kid up in the morning and getting them on the bus, maybe step it back a little bit and see if they can do it on their own. I guarantee you they can. They may not want to, but they probably can. Any way that you can start to give your child some independence now while they're still in your home and build and foster that confidence is really, really important. You know, there's a quote from Dr. Pressman, and she says, teenagers can be all gas and no brakes. And that's really scary, which is why it's so important to keep an open dialogue with your kids. Now's the time to really have those conversations, and not in a preachy way, in a understanding, supportive way, and hearing what they want to do with their lives, what their dreams and goals are, and the biggest thing I can say is, please do not compare. We all do it. It's part of life where, like, well, so and so is going to this college and so is going to that trade school. So and so has this wonderful job. What about you? We don't want to add any more pressure that's already there. And let me tell you something, kids today have a lot of pressures, a lot more pressures than we did when we were in school, right? So comparing them, even with other children in your family, never a really good idea, because it doesn't foster their self-esteem and their confidence. We want to build that resilience. We want them to feel like they can conquer everything. And I will tell you, everyone in this room, your child is capable of and deserves greatness, but they need to feel it. They need to feel and know that they're capable. And that's what we need to foster now in the safe environment before they transition out of our homes and perhaps maybe away at a college or at a trade school. We don't want to set them up to fail. We want to meet their expectations, sort of like what your schools are doing now. They're meeting your students where they are, and they're educating them based on where they are today. We have to do the same things with our expectations for their futures, right? We need to listen and have these conversations now. Um, and I think it's really important to recognize how their past experiences, maturity levels, and things that have happened to them in their lives affects them moving forward. I'll just tell a quick story. My daughter, and this is where it's the important of talking to your children and not pushing them to be things that they're really not. My daughter was an athlete, scholar athlete, but she had learning issues. It was really tough for her, but she, because of her athleticism, was accepted to a lot of different colleges, right? And, as a parent, all of her teammates were getting going here and going there, and we did the same thing. We went to a private 4-year, very aggressive college with a really great hockey team. And my daughter struggled horribly because it really wasn't the right fit for her. It was the right fit for her athletically, not academically, right? And she ended up staying for 3 years. And in the 3 years, she came home at break and said, I just can't do this anymore, Mom. And I did this for you, not for me. And it broke my heart for a lot of reasons, but it really broke my heart that that was exactly not what I wanted for my daughter. But I unconsciously pushed her in that direction because I didn't spend the time back in high school really listening to what she wanted to do, right? I just, up, she's going to be a hockey player, go away to 4-year college. It didn't work out. That wasn't her journey, but I've learned, and I'm here to share some of the things that I've learned with you today. Um, Being able to have those conversations early and honor them and trust that they're okay, making them understand that it's okay to don't have it all figured out in high school. I'm 61 years old and I still don't know what I really want to do with my life sometimes, right? It's okay to not have every answer when you're 17 years old. In fact, it's better that you don't, right? Because you're open to opportunities more than married to a set standard of what you think people should do or what you should do. Next slide. Again, keeping your children connected and grounded is key to their mental wellness. It's really important to encourage your teens to discover all the possibilities and careers and vocations now while you can, right? And I'm sure there are so many, really, we call them transition specialists. I guess they're called different things at different schools, but I'm sure in each one of the schools that your children are going, there is an individual who will be able to guide and help them, in addition to their guidance counselor. Usually they're called vocational counselors. So if they're not following a traditional path after high school, and maybe they want to go straight to work, or they may want to investigate a trade school, or they may want to do something different, take a gap year and travel. That's fine, but have them spend some time researching and really talking to others to find out what their interests are and what they really want to do. Remember, college is not the path for everybody. Not everybody goes to a traditional 4-year college, and that's okay. And it doesn't indicate success. I'll be honest, my son, very early on, told me he didn't want to go to college. And it was hard because I came from a family of you got to go to college. This is what everybody's doing in the neighborhood. And I finally realized, okay, this is who my son is. And I hear this. And we were all set to go to on the trade track. He went, I mentioned he went to ISA Career Center. He was taking the welding program, and we worked with Access VR to get his actual secondary education paid for through an adult BOCES program. And the day before he was supposed to start, I came home and there was a very fancy dressed United States Marine in my living room. And I'm like, who is this? Who is this guy? My son's like, that's my recruiter. I changed my mind. I want to be a Marine. Imagine my surprise. But you never know in life, what our kids want to do. And again, supporting their path and empowering them to do what they want to do is really important. I'm very proud to say that my son is a United States Marine. He's a military police officer, and he's thriving in his life. But that's because he did what he wanted to do, not what I really wanted to do. He did what he wanted to do. And he worked hard to get there. And that's the important thing, is we want to empower our kids to be successful as they transition and maintain their mental wellness. When kids are doing things that they want to do, they are mentally healthy and they're happier. And if your teen has a special need or any type of disability, take the time to find out what colleges and programs and accommodations will support them. When my daughter did go to her college, we spent a lot of time researching. Each college will call their department something different. My daughter's college called it the Department of Student Success. And what it was a building where she could go, and she worked with the accommodations that she had in her IEP. She got them approved there for the college, and she was able to advocate with her professors for her disability. My daughter was dyslexic, or actually, my daughter is dyslexic. So she required certain accommodations while she was a student in high school. And some of those accommodations were able to follow her. But your IEP doesn't really follow you to college, but you're able to advocate for some of the same accommodations. And that's really important. The wonderful thing is your guidance counselors, and there are so many resources out there that can provide suggestions on the type of institutions, whether it be secondary education, trade schools, adult BOCES programs, that will provide the type of supports and learning environments that your child will succeed at. Spend the time to research them with your child, because everybody really needs to feel comfortable. And encourage your children to talk to other teens. Sometimes our kids don't really want to talk to us because they think we're lecturing. My daughter used to go, wah, wah, wah. That's all she hears when I talk, right? But when they talk to their peers, sometimes they really understand. My son had a friend that worked in the parks department that he would always go talk to. And ironically, it was a police officer. And we're just so proud now that I was able to go back there and say, he followed your path. He's a police officer too now in the Marines. But, young adults love to talk to other teens and other people to get some advice too. So if you have people that that are trusted advisors, have them reach out to the kids, talk to them about what they want to do with their life, empower them and get them ready for that transition, because it doesn't have to be a scary thing. The thing is that they need to understand that they will always have a safe, loving home to come back to. And that's the connected part. No matter where our children transition to or what they decide to do, we're still their support system. We're their cheerleaders. We're their safe spot. And we're always going to be there. And again, the most important thing to remind our kids is it's okay to make a mistake, but it's not okay to live in the mistake. They got to move forward. But we all make mistakes and we all learn from them. Next slide. Again, when we talk about keeping our kids grounded and connected, and about making those mistakes, nothing should be catastrophic, right? I talked about my daughter coming home, and she decided when she came home from her traditional 4-year private college with a really nice hockey scholarship, she decided to pursue an adult BOCES trade program. And she's living her dream. She's really happy, right? It's okay to transfer schools. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take care of your mental health. There's no timeline with education, right? We all tend to think we have to do what everybody else does and we have to apply to get to college right now. And, you know, you don't. So talk to your child and see what's right for them. There's no right or wrong. And let them know, if they need a break, you'll take a break. If you want to switch, you can switch. I think I switched 2 colleges in my life. I started out as a nursing student and realized I was not set to be a nursing student. Went to a local community college until I figured it out, and then went to art school. We all have different paths, and it's okay. It's okay, and that's what we wanna communicate to our kids, that you don't have to have everything figured out, and you can take breaks. There's nothing set forever, but we're set there forever. The parents, we will always be there to support, guide, and mentor them, and that's what they need to hear. Along their journey, there's always a safe place to land. Now, older teens may be more open to counseling than others. So if you know that your teen is struggling with moving on, transitioning, and like I said, there's a lot of seniors right now that are in that beginning stage that I talked about earlier in the presentation, where they sort of get paralyzed and they start to self sabotage and they start to shut down. Um, Having them speak with a professional, coming to see and join any one of the programs I talked about prior in the presentation. We provide a lot of support. Um, it might be a teacher at school. It could be a life coach. Making decisions about high school are very, very difficult. And sometimes they don't feel comfortable coming to us as parents because they feel we're judging them or we're shaming them or we're kind of telling them what to do, right? So if your teens are open to counseling, counseling's a really, really wonderful way for them to express their feelings and be more confident with their mental wellness as they transition, and try to find opportunities for them to maintain that counseling when they leave your home. One of the things that we researched very strongly when my daughter left, because she was seeing a therapist here on Long Island, and she went to college in Boston. We made sure that she had a therapist locally that she was able to tune into and talk to. She also made an arrangement with her current therapist to do telehealth as need be, and that worked out really well. So again, while she had the support and guidance and mentoring and love from her family, she had her support system as well, even though she wasn't living at home anymore. Next slide.
Carol, hi, it's Janine. I just want to interrupt 1 second. I just want to remind all the participants, if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen, and then I will stop Carol here and there, and we could have her answer some questions.
Right, and I'm gonna try to leave some time at the end too, if
Okay.
anybody wants to ask specific questions as well.
Thank
Um, it takes a village, you heard that expression, and it really does. And one of the things that I really love is how much support we have here on Long Island for our mental wellness. Again, even outside of the agency that I work for, there are so many local supports that can help us to maintain our children's mental wellness. Within our local townships, there are so many really wonderful programs and therapies and socialization opportunities for our young adults. Check out your local library. They're a wonderful resource. Any one of the mental health agencies here on Long Island, Family and Children is just one of them, NAMI, and I'm going to talk about some other things as we move through the presentation, but there are tons of local community supports right here on Long Island that you can reach out to, and they're wonderful, wonderful helps. I'm a big support group person, so I love to go to a support group and talk to other families and individuals that are going through similar challenges that I am. Now, there's so many great support groups. I actually run a support group every Tuesday night that anybody here from Nassau County is welcome to come to at Family and Children's. We do a Tuesday night support group through our Nassau Family Program, which is open to everybody, right? Anybody can come. We do it in person at our offices in Garden City, and we also do remote. So 1 week I'm in person, 1 week I'm in remote, because I understand that not everybody can get out of the house. But support groups are a really great way to talk to other families that may be going through challenges similar to yours. And there are so many that are very target specific, right? So NAMI is a wonderful organization. NAMI organizations are all over our country. And depending upon where you live here on Long Island, there's probably a NAMI office very close to you. Um, CHAD is an organization for children and adults with ADHD. They also do fabulous workshops, just like here tonight. Autism Speaks, the LGBTQ centers all over Long Island. There are many youth groups, faith-based groups. So don't forget to look to your community resources. There's a lot out there. I can't say enough about the adult ed services we have here on Long Island. Our community colleges and our adult BOCES programs are outstanding. And, I was really worried when my daughter came home. I'm like, "Oh my God, like, I don't know, what do you wanna do?" She wanted to do culinary, and then ironically, she's doing welding now. Um, I just picked up the phone and I called, adult BOCES, and they sent me the catalog and they walked me through financial aid and all the things I had to do. It was a seamless, wonderful process. Don't be intimidated by the process. The biggest thing you gotta do is to get started. Just take that one step forward, make a phone call. And I'm gonna have some websites and resources as we move through the program. Access VR is another wonderful resource. For our kiddos that may be transitioning to more vocationally based opportunities after their high school. Um, Also, not like my daughter used Access VR for advocacy skills. She did an advocacy skills program that helped her learn how to advocate for herself when she went to her private 4-year college, which was immeasurable. My son used Access VR services in his senior year to learn resume writing, job readiness skills, and also to fine tune where his skill set was and what might be best suited to meet his skills. He had a job coach, which also helped him with his early jobs before he decided to go into the military. And it was really, really a very worthwhile service to have. And most importantly, depending upon where you decide to continue your path after high school, Access VR may be able to assist you financially. And I can't say that for sure that, every situation is different, but, make sure your children are registered so that you have the opportunities and can investigate that with your case worker for Access. The next thing I wanted to talk about really, and I know that you probably will be able to get more in-depth information on this in other workshops. I mean, this whole topic of guardianship and supported decision making could be its own workshop and could go on for hours. But depending upon the level of your support that your child will need, now's the time before they transition out of high school is to determine that and get that all set. So if your child is someone that may need guardianship, and you may already have started this, you really should contact an attorney and set a guardianship program up so they are set and supported. There's a new program in New York State that just became, like a legal action. I guess it's a year or so now. It's called supportive decision making. And this is a program that provides decision-making opportunities to individuals to support your child. So this isn't guardianship, but for example, what 18-year-old sometimes makes the best decisions? Some are great. Look, I'm not saying every 18-year-old makes poor decisions, but when you're talking about finances and maybe medical decisions, buying a home, whatever it may be, you really want them being advised by somebody who is giving them sound decision-making information. So supported decision-making is a legal process now in New York State where you will meet with an attorney and you will identify what we call the decision makers that will advise your child on whatever it may be. It could be medical, it could be banking situations, financial, education, buying a home. And this is all done through an attorney. So the child doesn't lose their rights like they would in a total guardianship program, but the child has decision-making ownership, but guidance through other individuals to help them make difficult decisions. And listen, there are a lot of difficult decisions that our teens sometimes have to make without the counsel that they should have. It's something to look into and see if it's right for your family. Next slide. So I talked about some local resources, and again, they're right here in your backyard. If you're in a school that has a SEPTA, I love SEPTAs. I was the president of my SEPTA for a really long time. I had two presidencies. But the one thing that you will know when you talk to a SEPTA, and if you happen to be in a BOCES school, because sometimes the BOCES don't have SEPTAs, then go back to your local district. They will probably have a SEPTA. And they will give, SEPTAs are usually parents that have a child with an IEP or 504 or some sort of a neurodivergent disability. They'll be able to provide you with very target specific information sometimes on transitioning. Same thing with New York State PTA. I love New York State PTA's website. It's a great website. I have it listed here, and you'll get a copy of this presentation. So, take some time and go on there. They give you a lot of really helpful resources, tips and tools for transitioning. Great, great, great resource. If your child needs some legal advice, and you don't happen to have an attorney, the Long Island Advocacy Center is a wonderful organization that has legal as well as educational advocates that will be able to assist the family in different ways, depending upon what your needs are. New York State Parent to Parent. New York State Parent to Parent is a wonderful organization. So it's parents helping other parents. I'm actually a New York State Parent to Parent support parent for children who are adopted, have ADHD or dyslexia. So I'm lucky when they call me, they're like, here's Susie Q, give her a call. She's a parent who really needs to talk to somebody else who's going through the same thing she is. So when you call New York State Parent to Parent, you could ask for a support parent that maybe has a child with the same profile as yours so that you can talk to somebody who's gone through the journey already and can guide and mentor and help you. I talked about the importance of joining and affiliating yourself with target specific groups, particularly if your child has a diagnosis that may be challenging and is very different and the needs are different than the typical, right? It could be adoption related. It could be a neurodivergency. So it could be autism or dyslexia, ADHD, maybe an LGBTQ issue that you're worried about, maybe safety or something, join target specific groups and start to network there. SPOA, which stands for Single Point of Access, is an overarching mental wellness organization. So when you go and you think that your child may need some mental health help in a program and you're not really sure where to turn, go online, look at SPOA, and you can fill out an application and they can guide you to an agency that will be able to provide you mental wellness support. And then I'm going to go into this next in a little bit, but New York State has wonderful resources for our kiddos as they're transitioning after high school. Job Corps, Access VR, the New York State Department of Civil Service, and New York State internship programs are amazing. What they are, for example, our New York State internship program is New York State is trying to foster certain careers that are needed in our state. So they offer internships where our graduating high school students can internship in electronics or plumbing, or it could be firefighting or whatever the need may be, because it changes with New York State. But there's a lot of internships that are it's a great way for our kids to get the experience and hands-on learning without having to follow a traditional private college route. And like I said, not everybody's meant for that. So there's a lot of opportunities. I have a list here of helpful websites. The OMH website, you'll have SPOA listed on there, is the Office of Mental Health. Tons and tons of resources here. For those of you that have a student that may be diagnosed with more cognitive and autism at a certain degree that they qualify for the OPWDD services, that's the website there. That stands for Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. Very, very helpful. Again, this is New York Parent to Parents website. I love Rights Law. Rights Law is just a great website in general because it's very specific to your educational rights as well as rights in college and secondary education. So check that out. They have a whole section on transitioning to secondary education, what your rights are, and what you should be aware of as you leave the supportive environment, which is very nurturing. High schools, you got a lot of people and teachers and a lot of support. And then when you go to college, it's a little less. So understanding what your rights are and what things you need to be prepared for, you're going to get some good advice there too. I mentioned New York State PTA. I mentioned Job Corps. And the last line is actually the Adoption and Foster Family Coalition of New York. This is an organization for any of you that are families that are formed through adoption, foster care, you have guardianship or kinship. This is a program that's funded by the Office of Family and Children Services in New York State, and again, provides case management and transition services to high schoolers transitioning out of foster care. Next slide.
Carol, I just want to mention, we had a parent write in the Q&A that if you live in the town of Hempstead, Hempstead Works is
Yes.
also a great organization.
Yes. Thank you for whoever wrote that down. Thank you. And that's my thing about go to your local community, like whether it's Hempstead Works, you're gonna go when you go to your township, all of the townships, all like I'm out in Suffolk County, so Brookhaven does a lot, Huntington does a lot. You know, there's always resource fairs and opportunities to help us. You know, it's right in our backyard, right here in Long. I have to say, we live in a really great place. There's a lot of help out there. Thank you for bringing that up. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, for those of you that are going an alternate path that may not be going to a traditional educational, you know, kind of a college or a community college situation. Maybe you want to leave and go right to work or learn a trade. There are a lot of employment resources out there through New York State. The New York State Department of Labor has a Long Island office, and this is the phone number. So give them a call and find out, because they will provide you with information about trade schools and labor opportunities here on Long Island where your children can apprentice and learn different trades. Same thing with Job Corps. Job Corps is also good for if you have a student that maybe didn't finish their high school journey, maybe they left late or they weren't able to graduate with what we call a Regents diploma. You know, there are opportunities. There's two tracks here. There's one for individuals that have a high school diploma and one for individuals that don't. So they actually earn their high school diploma while they're on the job training for a specific trade or activity. And that's a really good opportunity to check out. It's a very simple application process. You go right on the website and they'll walk you through and guide you to all the opportunities. Listen, civil service is a great way to go, and it might be the right thing for your child. So check out their website. It talks about the opportunities for our graduating high school students. There's a lot of civil service jobs out there waiting for our kids as they transfer. Same thing with New York State government jobs. This is with the Parks Department, with the Forest Department. Exciting, wonderful jobs and great careers. With some of the government jobs, they do require a high school diploma. But check it out. It might be the right thing for you. And then again, the Long Island Manufacturing Apprenticeship Program. This is the website for that. That's more of your, you know, heavy equipment, motoring, construction, welding, plumbing, that type of career track, which is very, very needed and can be very, very lucrative for those that pursue a career in those areas. There's so much opportunity out there. Sometimes we get very tunnel visioned on, oh, they got to go here. But no, there's, you know, find out what your child wants to do and then have them go through some of these websites and get excited about the opportunities that are out there for them. And then obviously the Access VR website. It's really important that our kids are prepared when they leave high school, because a lot of our kids want to go straight to work, but they're not really prepared to go to work, right? They don't really understand the expectations, and maybe their maturity level isn't there. Access VR provides services to get them up and running and work with any skill deficits they may have by giving them sometimes supported employment opportunities to build those skills so that they can have a long and happy, prosperous employment opportunity. Next slide. Okay, so we're almost at the end. I always like to say, keep calm. We're here, Family and Children's Association. This is our website. When you get a moment, go home. If you're feeling that you need to supply your child with additional mental health supports, take a look at the programs that we have, particularly our Nassau Family Center program is open to anybody in Nassau County. You don't have to have a medical diagnosis. You don't have to even be enrolled in our program. If you go on our website, like I said, I run a Tuesday night support group, which is open to anybody in Nassau County. We do a Monday mindful lunch hour with a wellness practitioner that puts us in a mindful state. We do meditation for an hour during lunch. Anybody's welcome to come. That's through Zoom. And then once a month, we do family engagement activities for children all in Nassau County. We either go play golf, sometimes we'll do tennis, sometimes we'll go to a movie. We have an art therapist that comes in and does art projects with the kids. And then my favorite part is we do activities just for our caregivers, just for our parents. So once a month, we'll do an activity just for us. So we can stay regulated, we can stay calm, and we can be the best parents we can be to empower our kids to be the best, most successful individuals they can be. So I want to thank you for letting me ramble on, and I would love to hear your questions.
Yeah. We don't have any yet. But feel free to type it in the Q&A box.
Is anybody worried about transition? Are they worried about like what's going to happen to their kid after high school, or they're worried about the process?
While we're waiting for maybe some questions, I just want to let families know that there is a webinar on December 12th about guardianship and estate planning.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's a good reminder for that.
And remember, parents, this is a big transition for you too, right? You know, we lose that control, right? They're 18, they can turn around and be like, yeah, I don't need I don't need to tell you I'm 18 now. And they're right. They can do things. They can go out and cut their hair, change their looks, whatever, but the thing is, we always need to be supportive. We need to validate, don't have to always agree, validate them, make them understand that we love and support them and that we're here for them, right?
Yes. Well, I thought that this was very informative, Caryl, and I hope the families thought it was informative as well.
I hope so. Questions, I'm here. And then, if you can't think of anything now and think of it
So
later.
they have a few. So somebody said, I have a senior in school, 18 years old. District is pushing him to graduate June 2024. He is at a BOCES program.
Okay, and I'm assuming they're pushing him to graduate because he has made all of his graduation requirements. Correct?
Miss Blandino, did you hear the other question from Caryl? Has he met all of his graduation requirements in the high school that he's at? They're making me sign a superintendent waiver, she said. So maybe he didn't pass his regents, but he passed his courses.
Right. Yeah. Which is fine. And I don't know what the question is, but it sounds like from the way that you phrased the question that you might be feeling that that individual may not be ready to graduate, which I understand. And that's why I talked about spending the time to really get to know what your child wants to do. What I love is, if you don't feel they're ready to fly yet, there are other programs that you can look into that doesn't have to be so rigorous. Look into adult education, look into adult BOCES programs, look into your local community colleges. You could take one class. You don't have to be matriculated. I think when we overwhelm our kids that aren't really ready to take on all that responsibility, that's when they fail, right? There's no reason somebody has to take a full course load if they don't feel that they're ready, right? Have them take one class. Maybe work a job for 2 or 3 hours during the day. Next semester, maybe they take 2 classes, work a little less or whatever. But there's always a way to make it work.
We have one mom that said that she's so scared of life after high school.
Yes. And thank you for saying that, because that goes back to, what I was talking about, the graduation grief. It's not just for the kids, it's for us parents too. We all want our kids to do well, but there's that fear that we have of letting go because we have controlled, guided, and mentored for so long, right? And we don't want to have our kids fail. But one of the most important things that we can do for our children is allow them to fail, right? With support, what I said before, connected, grounded support, because we learn through our mistakes, right? So allowing them to have the autonomy to go forward and try new things, as long as they know we're here to support them, is really important. And like I said, there's no mistake that could be that horrible. So they fail a class, they'll take it over next year, or maybe not, or maybe like my daughter, they'll come home and decide, I don't want to be an artist, I want to be a welder, and then they'll go be a welder. It's okay. It's okay. No timeline, right? If you feel that they're not ready to transition, maybe work on talking to Access about some advocacy classes and some job readiness classes before. Maybe you take a semester off. There's no timeline that you have to follow when your child transitions.
I like your story, Caryl, about your son coming home and having the recruiter in your living room.
Oh, yes. And he literally
Unexpected.
Well, actually, what was a sad thing was he obviously was talking to this recruiter a lot longer than I knew about. And shipped out literally a week after he told us. So he literally left. We haven't, and he's been going now. And once you join the military, you sign up for 4 years, you're out. And but he's thriving, right? Because he's doing something he loves.
Because
Really doing something he loves.
Yes. I think that's important. I mean, we always talk about self-determination and self-advocacy. And just for families to know, I mean, as a principal of a high school with students who suffer from, mental illness, the guidance counselors and their PPS providers really are those go-to people, that really help guide them and find out what they like and what they want to do, and then really work closely with the family. So, and I think you mentioned that, Caryl, in one of your slides, that, work with your school's guidance department, work with your school's counselors, work with even, the administrative staff, because those teams are going to help you get through those CSE meetings, those transition meetings, those exit meetings, and those, those adulthood planning. So, again, you have to rely on the programs that your children are in now to help you with that planning.
Right. And if they're seniors and they still don't have it figured out, that's okay. They'll get there, right? They'll get there. But just have, I always say, like, the most important thing for mental wellness is for us to have a goal to work towards, right? Doesn't have to be a lofty goal, but just getting up and maybe looking for a job, getting up and socializing, getting up and going to a program that makes you feel good, taking an art class, keeping busy, and being an active participant in your community is the way to keep your mental health. It really is. And, taking a lot of that pressure for success off of our 18-year-olds. They don't have to be perfect at 18. In fact, most aren't. Allowing them to grow into themselves. We call them adults, but I'm sorry, 18-year-olds are not adults. They're not. They still need their parents. They need guidance and support and mentoring. It doesn't always have to come from us. If there's a member in the family, and thank you for saying that, it could be a trusted teacher that they like to speak to. When my son was in boot camp, and for anybody that knows military, boot camp's tough, and particularly in the Marines, it's really tough. And I reached out to all of his ISLIP Career Center teachers and his BOCES teachers at Manor Plains. And I said, would you do me a favor? This is his address. Could you write him a letter of encouragement? It meant so much for my son to hear from the teachers that he had in high school that were thinking about him. And the teachers wrote back to me, thank you for letting me do this. This made me feel good. I'm so proud of him. We always knew he was going to do good things. I feel really privileged to get to be able to send him a letter to let him know how proud I am. So keep in touch with your educators, particularly if your kids have a strong connection. It's not just like cutting a wire. Those connections are really important.
Yes. We have a question. Any insight on DOE funding a transition program?
The Department of Ed. I don't know as much about the Department of Ed because I work primarily on Long Island, and DOE is a little different. But if you're talking about Access VR or one of the other agencies that can help with funding transition programs, it's depending on what you're looking for. So I do know that Job Corps is funded, right? So that, you know, is funded. The Long Island manufacturing programs are funded by New York State. Access VR can fund vocational training depending upon where it is. They have relationships with different colleges on Long Island. They have relationships with adult BOCES programs, but I can't say for sure because I don't really know what you're particularly looking for. So go on some of those websites and call those links because all of those programs are funded by New York State.
Right, and just a reminder to all families, this is recorded and it will be on the BOCES website along with Carol's PowerPoint. So you'll be able to access any of those links or resources that she spoke about.
And there are scholarships, and that's the other thing is, you know, thank you for mentioning, you know, keeping in touch with the guidance counselors, but all guidance counselors on Naviance or whatever system your school might be using have a list of scholarships that are available to your students, and even the New York State Excelsior Scholarship. You know, every situation is different, and I don't know all of your situations, but there are many opportunities to have their post-secondary education funded.
Okay, any last questions before we wrap up for the night? No. Okay, well, Caryl, it was a pleasure. I think that this was very informative, and I hope that all the families really thought that this was very informative, and it was more of a it's also a good resource for parents to meet somebody like Caryl and hear her personal stories as well and really make those connections. So we thank you, Caryl. We
Oh,
really
it's my
thank you.
pleasure. And everybody be well and celebrate this
Yes,
wonderful time. Yes.
yes. And everybody have a wonderful night and happy holidays to everybody.